Time to focus on business now. Business editor Mike Apple joins us. Mike, how are you this morning?
Getting through,
As
like everybody else.
Yeah, with anything. And I guess a trend we've been seeing for a week or even more now is the market response to COVID-19. What's the latest?
We're seeing a little bit of a bounce this morning, but it's really tentative. We are coming off one of the, again, worst days ever, which we have said on several occasions here in the midst of this market sell-off over the past 3 weeks plus. Yesterday, the Dow, for example, was down almost 3,000 points, or about 12%. This morning, the Dow's been up 500, then it was back down 100, and now it's just above break even. TSX, it's coming off on a near 10% drop back to where it was at the close yesterday at 2016 levels. You know, we're talking 4-year lows, so this has been the fastest drop into a bear market, certainly on record, and there's just no near-term stability because the unknown is still looming large. We will likely see some more government intervention. The talk out of Washington is they're working on an $850 billion economic stimulus plan, which will go to helping small businesses, but also large ones. The airline industry, for example, is asking for a $200 billion short-term relief fund that they can draw down to just keep the lights on, so to speak, because they're grounding so many flights. The latest to do so, you know, is on these international routes. It's just crushing their business models. And again, you know, this was best described to me as it's similar yet different to the 08-09 financial crisis, because back then it was like, okay, do you bail out the banks who were ostensibly digging their own hole by giving out bad mortgages? Well, in this case, it's a natural disaster. It's not a moral hazard kind of thing. You just got to do it to get through this, and it might be a very different debate at a political level, which at the time back in 08-09 saw a lot of people disagreeing on what to do in best case scenarios.
And the latest Calgary-based company, WestJet, suspending their international flights and transporter routes. And
this, remember, WestJet got bought out by Onex last year. So it's a privately owned company now, which actually, in retrospect, is really fortuitous because Onex has got deep pockets. If this was publicly traded like Air Canada, you know, Air Canada has seen its stock price drop 60% plus from its peak, which was just earlier this year. So, you know, these companies are adjusting, certainly, but do they have the cash on hand to weather the storm? And in WestJet's case, they do because, again, Onex is their new owner.
And just a couple days ago, we saw a notice from Cineplex about cleanliness and safety, now turning to the closure. I think we saw that coming.
Yeah, and it's not alone. AMC Theater is also doing the same. This is all just about, you know, again, the social distancing aspect. They tried it by separating the seats in the theaters, but going the full route here. Who's going to the theaters, really? I mean, that's the point. Nobody wants to. They're being told to stay away from other people, and going to the movies is not really practical at this point.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Mike. You can hear him on 660 News at 26 and 56. Now let's have a check on markets.
This portion of BT is brought to you by 660 News, Calgary's breaking news, weather, and traffic station.